Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. I'm Olumide Macaulay. First, the highlights. President Muhammadu Buhari leaves for Saudi Arabia on an 8-day official visit. He is expected to perform the Lesser Hajj, as this is his last official trip to the Holy Land as President of Nigeria. Federal government makes last-minute approval for funds disbursement to conclude existing projects, also set to prepare handover note for incoming administration. And the 10th National Assembly leadership debate underway as interested candidates for House and Senate leadership intensify underground moves. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a healthy appetite for today's Lunchtime Politics. President Muhammadu Buhari will be traveling to Saudi Arabia for an 8-day official visit. The trip will last from today, Tuesday, 11th of April, to Wednesday, 19th of April, 2023. This was confirmed in an official statement signed by his Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, on Monday. This visit, during which he'll perform Umrah, the lesser pilgrimage, is said to be his last official trip to the kingdom as President of Nigeria, as handover day draws nearer. Those who think that the performance of the present administration is below average must have a rethink, as President Muhammadu Buhari has done well in the area of economy and security. Those were the exact words of the presidential spokesperson, Mr. Femi Adesina, while speaking on our political program, Politics Today. Ms. Adesina explains that Nigeria has a push from a mono economy to a diverse nation.
In 2015, we knew where Nigeria was. Minimum of 17 local governments in this country were under the control of insurgents. Talking of control, I mean they were sitting in MS palaces. They were sitting in the seat of the local government chairman. NYSC could not do orientation. They could not even post people to those places. Is that what happens today? No, the MS are back in their palaces. Local government chairmen are back in their offices. NYSC orientation is happening in those states, and coppers are being posted to those states. Are you now telling me that there has been no improvement? No. This government met a mono-product economy, an economy that depended solely on oil. So that anytime oil prices fell, oil prices crashed in the international market, Nigeria crashes with it. But today is no longer so. Oil contributes less than 10% of our GDP today. Oil that used to contribute about 90%. For the first time in our history, Nigeria has a diversified economy. Diversification had long been a promise. Today, it is no longer a promise. It is reality. It is reality. Oil contributes less than 10% to the GDP of this country today. I think people must credit the Buhari administration for that, because you now have agric, you now have ICT, you now have manufacturing to an extent. You have so many things contributing to Nigeria's GDP, apart from oil. To the extent that oil, I say again, contributes less than 10% to our GDP. The economy has been diversified, first time in over 60 years. That is something nobody would deny the Buhari administration.
Just last week, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the disbursement of 320.3 billion naira as intervention funds for public tertiary institutions in the country. This is set to be the highest allocation made to public tertiary institutions in 30 years. The Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, Mr. Sonny Echono, announced the approval at a workshop with heads of beneficiary institutions in Abuja last week, Wednesday. Also in March this year, the President assented to 16 out of the 35 Constitution Amendment bills sent to him by the National Assembly. Some of the bills he assented to are expected to promote the devolution of powers and true federalism. Now, we're pleased to speak with Professor Samuel Odelmi, Professor of Transport and Logistics. You're welcome to the program this afternoon.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Let's begin, if you will, at the education sector, where this TED Fund Intervention Fund has been announced for disbursement. We know that this is a twilight of the Buhari administration, and ASU has had a number of concerns that has led to, at least since 1999, the last 23 years, 16 strikes alone, not to talk of the strikes from 1988. Now, given that some may argue that that was not the current party in power, the APC party in power, but since 2015, have things changed? Considering the timing of this fund disbursement, do you have an opinion?
Yes, I have an opinion. Well, the money could be warehoused and dedicated, but I do not support or advise that the money be disbursed in it. When you rush it now, you are likely to have a situation where people will just disburse it and the debt will be for the next government. So basically, my opinion.
We do apologize for... Okay, please go on.
So I said I do not support that the money should be disbursed now. It should be left to the next administration because the next administration is already burdened. And when the money gets to the university, the monitoring and evaluation of it should be left to the next administration.
Professor, you know that this intervention fund is very good in the way of being an intervention fund. So the connotation is that it's temporary. But we have these concerns and these reservations for which ASU has been threatening to strike and indeed has carried out strike actions. Remember, as close as last year, how the education sector was crippled, tertiary education, by ASU strike. How do you think the incoming administration should handle the education agenda for the near term?
The first thing for the next administration is engagement, engagement, engagement. You see, look, neither ASU nor NSC, I was ASU chairman myself at LASU branch. You see, it's not always an ideal thing for people to just get money from somewhere and think they will say, okay, this is what we want to do. Anything you do for us without us is without our support. So the first thing is thorough engagement with ASU, because that 320 billion can only touch a little bit, to be able to prioritize and say, these are critical, give money as if they are beggars and as if they don't know what they are doing. They know the terrain, that is their life. You cannot just get some board of passage. So engagement is the key word. Let them call us now and engage. And look, how do you want this money spent in order to derive the maximum benefit?
Okay, Professor, earlier I was asking you about the timing of the disbursements. You mentioned how they will be dispersed, but you didn't speak to the timing of the disbursements coming at the tail end of the Buhari administration.
I have said it. The money has come. And some of the things that Buhari administration is taking is very, to me, very distasteful and very inconsiderate. For instance, So let me answer yours first, then I will draw another illustration. So the timing for getting the money is okay, but any attempt to disburse it will be in bad faith. That is the. Then I will give you another illustration. The timing that Buhari left for this administration on fuel subsidy is a trap. It's a political and social and economic trap. Can you say you are leaving May 29 and that subsidy should be removed June? I mean, just the following liability for the incoming administration. Let's draw the illustration what Obasanjo did when he wanted to leave. He raised the price of fuel so that because he was outgoing, he took the flak for raising it. So when Yar'Adua came in, Yar'Adua reduced it in order to gain political traction. So for me, it's a booby trap. And so the timing of Buhari on so many things, then look at even the census. Can you be having census on the first week of May when you are handing over? It is maybe because money is lying in somewhere and some people want to disburse it by all means. You don't allow people to disburse such huge fund. You need people who are coming for the next 4 years to handle it. So the timing is in bad faith and it leaves a very bad, sour taste in my mouth as far as I'm concerned. And it's not just only that one. I'm giving you two examples of the fuel subsidy timing, fuel subsidy removal timing, and the this particular fund and the census.
Professor, the presidential spokesperson, Mr. Femi Adesina, has been given a scorecard, if you like, of the performance of the Buhari administration, some of which include security, where he mentioned, as we have been reporting, that it wasn't as bad as before they came on board. It's been a flurry, if you like, of a number of decisions and last-minute decisions, including the president assenting to 16 out of the 35 constitution amendment bills sent to him by the National Assembly. We know that it's better late than never, but are these decisions too little too late, or is just in order?
Well, for the bill, it has come a long way. So it has nothing to do with last-minute decision of the government. The House has been going up and down. It has taken like forever for the bill to crawl to Mr. President table. But the question people, and which the Senate did, is that what are the reasons for not signing the rest? And the Senate wants to see whether there are those that they can redeem. So I will not add the signing of the bill to last-minute rush timing of Mr. President. But as for the spokesperson, Adesina, well, he's saying what he's supposed to say. He's doing what he's paid to do. That is his job. But it is for us who are who are listening and who are feeling the pinch to say, look, you are wrong on this account. For security, let him go and tell Benue that have lost almost 150 people over just less than a week. Let him go and tell him that the security for 8 years, you are talking of it has improved. Not that you have eradicated it. If there is any one major reason why Buhari, corruption and security, the assumption of some of us, naively so, is that because he's a general, this issue of security will be immediate thing of the past. But I will just call him less than 40%, and in the academics, that's a failure. Then too, Adesina was saying something repeatedly, and he is wrong, and we can fact check. We are diversifying our economy, so it could be 10% of GDP, but oil is still the biggest chunk of our revenue. The approach or the defense tactics of this administration, basing everything on GDP, is not the best. If they say, when we told them that they are borrowing too much, they say no, it's a reasonable percentage of the GDP. And now they are talking of that they've diversified. Oil is just contributing to the revenue that we are having. The hard currency is about 70–80%.
Thank you so much.
Should not pull over our eyes. That's what led them into borrowing us into this trap. Economics are not of the same structure. You can't be basing it is the money we make that we have to plan, not the total asset of our family. So that is my take on the Mr. Adeni. He's doing his job, but we can fast check his statement on security. I do not agree with him, and many people will not, and many people will not, and even the kidnapping that is now a resurgence of the election is to say that maybe those people went to vote and they are back on duty. So we have not done anything to break their back.
Okay, Professor, and of course there are those on the other side of the divide who would have a different view. Thank you so much for coming on Lunchtime Politics today.
Yeah, thank you. But can I say something, please, quickly?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for the incoming administration, I want them to look at these 4 cardinal points. It's very, very important. Security at the top, and 2 elements of security is the police. That is the policing. If it is not state police, a regional police, the police we have now cannot handle it. At the base is the issue of national unity. We are thoroughly divided now. He should work on that and get, by his politics, by his appointment, he should assure everybody that we are all at stake, because without unity, the government will not be able to move very far. Then economy is on the right. And 2 issues are the biggest. The subsidy and the issue of debt. He must tackle that. And for infrastructure, okay, he must deal with the transportation system and power. So
okay, we'll have to leave it there. He
has an expert to work on that. Those are my own assignment for him. Cardinal programs: security, unity, economics, infrastructure.
Much appreciated your contribution, Professor Samuel Adelmi, a professor of transport and logistics on Lunchtime Politics this afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
After the break, the PDP in Katsina to reconcile aggrieved parties. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Lunchtime Politics. The newly installed caretaker committee chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP in Katsina State, Dr. Abdulrahman Usman, has vowed to reconcile all the aggrieved party exco members recently dissolved by the PDP National Working Committee in the state. He also promises to reposition and reset the party towards the right direction in an effort to move it forward. Mr. Usman made the promise shortly after the outgoing chairman of the party, Mr. Lawal Magaji Dambachi, handed over the realm of office to him following the directives from the National Working Committee of the party. He also explained during the inaugural meeting held at the headquarters in Katsina State that the newly constituted committee is going to take off the party and will not leave any stone unturned in ensuring that the heart and soul of the party is set in the right direction. He maintains that his committee will do their best to ensure that they leave a good track record that will go into the PDP history in Katsina State, assuring that all the members will have equity, fairness, and justice. He also recalled that some members had before and during the just concluded 2023 general elections in the state chose to work against the interest of the people, not for the interest of the party, but for their own personal and selfish motives. The All Progressives Congress in Taraba State has dismissed an allegation of expulsion and anti-party activities during the general elections against Senator-elect for Taraba South, Mr. David Dimkuta. At a press conference in Jalingo, the state capital, the Takum local government secretary of the party, Mr. Bulus Sabo, describes the suspension and subsequent expulsion of the senator-elect by a faction as an act of mischief and a nullity. This follows a press statement issued by one Mr. Sirajo Salau, who is also claiming to be the chairman of the party in that council. According to him, discussions are in top gear with aggrieved members of the party in Taraba State to unite and reconcile them, just as he calls for calm. He adds that the group who signed the purported expulsion are not members of the APC in Takum Local Council, rather mercenaries recruited by opposition parties who lost out in the contest.
Mijinyawa Saliu, the chairman, myself, secretary, Honorable Bulu Sabo, Joro, and the youth leader, Christopher Yakubu, as well as other executives of the APC in Takum local government area of Taraba State, wish to state that there is no factional executives of the party in our local government, and we remain the only executives. We equally want to put it on record that the group who signed the purported expulsion of our senator-elect are not members of APC in Takum local government. They are rather some mercenaries recruited from an opposition party by some aggrieved members of the party who lost out in both primaries and the governorship election of the 2023 polls.
And as the People's Democratic Party continues its celebration over the governorship election victory in Delta State, the candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the March 18, 2023 election, Mr. Kenneth Gbagi, is asking the governorship election petition tribunal to declare him as the winner of the election. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Gbagi says he's filed a petition before the governorship election petition tribunal on the grounds that the governor-elect of Delta State and other 4 candidates who contested the election were not qualified to contest the election. Mr. Gbagi insists that he is sufficiently armed with documents to prove the ineligibility of the candidates who did contest that election. A coalition of youth under the aegis Niger Delta Peace and Development Advocates have endorsed the senator representing Abia North in the Red Chamber, Dr. Orji Uzo Kalu, for the position of the President of the Senate. This endorsement was made known during a press briefing put together by the group in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Making known their reasons for the choice of Dr. Kalu, the president of the group, Mr. Kelvin Ebi Thomas, stated it's the turn of the Southeast to produce the Senate president. Speaking further, Secretary of the group, Mr. Jude Tanu, posited that the reason for low turnout of voters in the Southeast is because it's the turn of the zone to produce the president, and as such should be compensated with the Senate presidency. A former senator who represented Abia North Senatorial District in the 8th National Assembly, Mr. Mao Ohuabunwa, has been speaking on the quality of will-be leaders of the 10th National Assembly. Speaking on our political platform, Politics Today, he highlights character, integrity, capacity, and ability as major attributes for such a person. He also explains that a National Assembly leader should not be tied to the tail of the executive, but play a contemporary role to other, or rather a complementary role to other arms of government.
First, what is important is character. You talk about the character, you talk about the integrity, you talk about the capacity and the ability of this person. Don't forget that as a leader, you're no more, he's just not going to be the leader of the Senate. He's going to be the chairman of the National Assembly. He's also now going by protocol, the number 3 man in the country. So it's like you're presenting your best. So under that condition, in that circumstance, you must make sure that you present the best amongst all. There are so many things we put into consideration when we talk about zoning. It's not only state or region. It's time to bring people who are conversant with the tenets of democracy and parliament, who can keep the executive on check. Don't forget that our functions are complementary, but not to the extent that you become a rubber stamp. I've always been an advocate of independent National Assembly. Allow the Senate to act in accordance with the rules. So any Senate president that is not a product of the senators, of the legislature, or even speaker will not stay. There are offices enough for all the zones. See, you have, let me give you, if you have the Senate president from one zone, you have the deputy Senate president from another zone, you have the leader of the house from another zone, you have the whip from another zone, you have the deputy leader, then you have the deputy whip which covers the 6 geopolitical zones. So no.
And staying with the National Assembly leadership, as the race for the top position inches closer, member of the APC in the House of Representatives, Mr. Sada Soli, is asking the party to consider zoning. Honorable Sada Soli believes this will address some concerns across the country. The lawmaker, who is running for Speaker of the House, the 10th House, also believes that religion should be considered based on the general perception of Nigerians. He was also speaking to our political correspondent, Terry Kumi.
I think
to apologize for the break in the audio of the comments of that honorable member. Now, the leader of the Pan-Yoruba socio-cultural group, Afenifere, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, has called for caution among supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. Chief Adebanjo wants them to be wary and avoid making provocative statements. He was speaking while playing host to the delegation of an Igbo socio-cultural group, Aya Indigbo. The delegation, led by a 92-year-old man, Dr. Umar Eliazu, seeks to commend Chief Adebanjo for his consistency and leadership of Afenifere and for supporting the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, during the last presidential election. Chief Adebanjo said his support is not a favor but a statement for what is fair and what is right.
Tedious insinuations, what in modern parlance they call profiling, ethnic profiling. And we know the danger it has caused in this world. Sure, you know about the ethnic profiling of the Jews in Germany and the consequences. We will not talk about ethnic profiling in Nigeria. But another celebrated one is the ethnic profiling in Rwanda and the consequences. And we thought, okay, after the election, this thing will die down. This is an election period. People call me and say, sorry, it's just for this election, don't worry. But the election is over. People are still moving around to tell people, you thought that you can get over it. We are now in power. And people are now saying, like the other day, people called me and said they were going to their market and they found that the whole place had been closed.
And that's it. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Do enjoy more on our social media platforms. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Olumide Macaulay. See you next time.